A very good morning to all of you, and Jule, as we say in Ladakh. Honorable Minister, sir, Mr. Ramadurai, General Sani, Dr. Khosla, Mr. Bhattakur, and Honorable Mr. Karni Singh. I must thank Club of Rome for inviting me to be present here. And I think it's a privilege to be in the inaugural session, because I think whatever I say would give you hopefully some food for thought, and maybe I would be able to get some inputs from you at the end of the conference. So I think it's very, very useful for me to be able to speak at this stage. First, I must say that no better time than this for a conference of this nature, because after removal of Article 370, the J&K Reorganization Act states that there would be a development package for Ladakh. Now, since there is a prospect for a monetary package, it would be very important for Ladakh to decide where this money should be spent, in what way this money should be spent. I have some thoughts which I would share with you, but as I said, that I'm an administrator, you are the experts, so I would love to hear what you say I should do with this money. It's let me say that I'm making this request and throwing a challenge to you that please come up with thoughts on this. Let me mention some things which have happened in Ladakh. First is that there have been elections at the grassroots level, that is at the village panchayat level, at the block level. Elected bodies at the district level already exist. So, therefore, there is an administrative political structure which already exists. There are many things which Government of India, almost along with the announcement of Union Territory, has done, which I should share with you. First is a program for about 7,500 megawatt of solar energy, as against a potential of 35,000 megawatt of solar energy in Ladakh. Other small projects of solar have also been announced by Government of India, which include a 14 megawatt and a 50 megawatt project. But even with this, as you notice, 35,000 is still a long way off. The Government of India has announced a medical college for Leh in particular. An Institute of Hotel Management has been announced. Sowa Rigpa, which is one of the traditional systems of medicine practiced by the Amchis. An institute for Sowa Rigpa would be set up, which would give actually degrees in Sowa Rigpa method of treatment. A Ladakh University has been announced, which would start functioning from this year itself. And small but a very important thing, Indian Oil announced a minus 33 degree capable diesel for Ladakh, which is one of the perennial problems that you can't even start a vehicle, let alone do some work. So this is something which would go a long way. Let me come back to Ladakh. I didn't know, so let me share with you. La means a pass, and Dak is really the land of high passes. On land, you cross maybe 10-15 passes, but somebody made a lay assessment that there are over 1,200 passes in Ladakh. Sometimes people call it Moonland because this area was created by the Indian plate advancing and colliding with the Eurasian plate. And therefore, you see some areas which are called Moonland. Very nice to see. I invite you to see it. The heights range from 8,000 feet to 25,000 feet, and any number of peaks above 18,000 feet. Paradise for mountaineers. Siachen, of course, which has been opened up. 76 kilometers long glacier, which is the second longest glacier in non-polar world. You have Indus River, and every night when I sleep there, I think that I am really living in Indus Valley civilization. Unlike rest of the country, which goes by this name, but you don't have the privilege of sleeping in Indus Valley. Weather, of course, which can go up to minus 50 degrees centigrade. Rainfall, which is practically non-existent. So it's a dry desert, high sunlight area, 300 days of sunlight. It's the only state which has China and Pakistan borders together. No other state has that, should I say, privilege, sometimes a problem. Other names which you would have heard, but let me repeat. Dras, which is treated as the second coldest inhabited place in the world. Khardungla Pass, which is 18,500, the highest motorable road, which has now been crossed by another road which BRO has built, which is over 19,000 feet. Pangong Lake, which you've seen in the Aryan Valley, the Hanle Observatory, Nubra and the double-humped camel. Kargil, which lots of people visit as a tourist spot just to be able to see Tololing and a tiger top or a Batra top. There are areas which came into India from Pakistan during one of the wars, Turtuk. Again, a remarkable place, very interesting place to see the culture, see things. More than 50% of the area of the state, 60,000 kilometers, with us, rest claimed in terms of Shaksgam Valley or POK or Aksai Chin. But out of that remaining 60,000, almost more than 50% of the area is wildlife. It is a wildlife sanctuary. And therefore, the developmental challenges are clear that are you going to be able to make money out of that 50% area which is wildlife. For the conservationists, it is fine. I am with them. I have no quarrel. But ultimately, for the people, they need money. In fact, very interestingly, in Ladakh, in Kargil, there is already a demand for 2 more wildlife sanctuaries to be set up. We are not satisfied with this 50%, 60% of area. And therefore, just shows that the people are ready in their mind to look at this possibility of making money. Historically, of course, I may be boring you, but let me say that it was a feeder to the Silk Route from Yarkand, and therefore it was treated as the highest possible crossroads as a trading point. In 1901, an estimate has been made that Leh was doing a trade of 60 lakh rupees per annum, which is a remarkable amount of money in today's terms. So it was a major destination. There is a Central Asian Museum, I would invite you to see it, which has artifacts of the Silk Route convoys. It's very fascinating to see that. The society in Ladakh was always closed, self-reliant, zero waste. In fact, they had a tradition, at least in the Buddhist part of Ladakh, where one son would remain with the family to look after the land, so that land doesn't get fragmented. Rest of them would become monks. No longer the tradition, and therefore there's a problem of joblessness, because the other son or other child needs a job. Remarkable spirit among the people. They cooperate in doing things together. There are NGOs in large numbers which are working in a very large variety of fields to be able to deliver things. In those temperatures, naturally, there is no homeless person. Won't live, won't survive. The maternal mortality rates, I was amazed that total of 1 death reported last year in Leh and 8 maternal mortality deaths in Kargil last year. Very low. 100% of the children are already in the schools. Quality is a problem, but they are there in the schools. The entire Indian ice hockey team, almost entire, comes from Ladakh. In fact, when I was coming here, one of the persons said that we are proud to be Ladakhis and we want the world to learn from Ladakh. So I think that is the spirit of the people that I'm talking about. And this is the spirit which leads me to think that lots of changes, lots of improvements, lots of development is possible in Ladakh. I'll just quickly lay out the challenges. As you know that Leh Srinagar, Leh Kargil roads, they're open for maybe 6 to 9 months in a year. So you are cut off for a very large period of the time. And I find it amazing, sir, and it's very fortunate you are here, sir, because I would treat it as I'll use a very strong word, sir, as a disgrace to the nation that since independence, more than 70 years, whether it is Indian Army or the local population, during the winters, the entire ration is being airlifted. Year after year, 72 years. Should the country accept it? That's the question which I think when I'm sitting there. We need to do something about it. In fact, the amount we spent on the airfare, it can be recovered in 1 year if we can do a road. So it is a challenge for the national planners. Can we do it? Telecom abysmal, and it's a challenge. How do we make sure that what China is offering right across the border and which irritates our people, good telecom, power supply, houses which are very nicely done, roads which are brilliant, and you come this side and you see nothing. And it is resulting in migration of people from the border areas, which I think is very bad for the national security. We need to be able to give good infrastructure on the border to ensure that our people stay there. The young man needs a house which is at least national or international in standards. He needs a living standard which is adequate for him to pin him down there. Unless we are able to do that, we'll see the borders becoming totally deserted and not good for the country in any case. We need to be able to address this. We have an airport which functions only in the forenoon because afternoon flights are commercially non-viable and nighttime is not possible. Now, that leaves just a window of 3-4 hours when you can get connected to the rest of the country. And again, that is a challenge. Whether we can do better than that, I think we can. Improvement in education, of course, is a requirement. Health improvement is a requirement. We have plenty of water in terms of Indus and any number of other rivers and nalas. But still, every village faces shortages of water for 2 reasons. One, that you are at a height, how do you get water there? Second, that a lot of migrant population which pollutes the water sources. And we have the situation where a person stops drinking the water which he normally used to drink, and I am forced to put water tankers there, which is, I think, a huge pity. You've talked of environment, and this is one example. There are villagers who have approached us that a peak called Stoke Kangri, you should stop people from climbing for next 3 years because people have made it dirty. We are also guilty. People are also guilty. But we need to do something because if we damage the environment like this, then none of the peaks would remain climbable. We need to stop it. Power, I said the potential. I didn't cover the full potential. 35,000 megawatt of solar, 2,000 megawatt of hydel, about 1,000 megawatt of wind power, and geothermal, which is yet to be assessed. Incidentally, there are any number of geothermal plants right across the border in China. So I don't see why we should have that problem. And yet, we find that in winters, we run short of power because we have not planned for it. We have planned hydro plants which start generating about 1/3 of the power, the commissioned power, during winters because of lack of water. Vegetables which we don't get in winters, other provisions which we don't get in winters. So, challenges. The areas which I think we need to work upon ecology, obviously. In terms of assets or investments, I have mentioned power already, but in horticulture, aromatic medicinal plants, apples, I assure you these are the best. Kashmir is here, but you were part of that. These Kargil apples are the best that I have ever tasted. Apricot with a white kernel. It's about the best that I have ever tasted. We need to be able to process them and make it available. We have medicinal plants like sea buckthorn, or one particular plant which Honorable Prime Minister called as Sanjeevani, which are beautiful plants used in by the Amchis for the traditional medicines, but something which we need to be able to do much better on. We have Pashmina goats. Kashmir is famous because the Kashmir processes them, but the goats are with us, and they need to be built upon. Their numbers are going down because they are on the border, and from a peak of about 4 lakhs, it has come down to 3 lakhs today. And it would keep dwindling if I don't develop my border areas. We need to develop the border area in terms of infrastructure. We need to develop the pasture lands. Only then this area would be able to prosper. Wildlife, I have already mentioned. I will just say that we are coincidentally in a venue which is wildlife based. And I had the occasion to discuss with the secretary and one of the persons who has worked in Ladakh for 5-10 years. And he's working on black-necked crane. And this is about the only place in the country which has it, about 100-odd black-necked cranes. But it is also the breeding ground for those black-necked cranes. So something great for the wildlife people to see. Mr. M.K. Ranjit Singh, a great name in wildlife, he told me that on the Himalaya and Trans-Himalayan mountains, whatever is the number of mammals in the entire world, 1/3 of those mammals are available in Ladakh. There are birds, there are butterflies, there are groups which come just to see a particular butterfly or a particular bird. So great opportunities there. I had occasion to look at areas like Dras and Zanskar from air, and I can vouchsafe that the ski slopes that are available there are out of this world. We have not developed any of them till date. We need to do it. Astronomy, I have just mentioned that this is the most beautiful sky that you can ever see. I think just on the grounds of astronomy, it should become a destination by itself. So, on the whole, I see a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities. In fact, today, already, the number of tourists in Ladakh exceeds the population of Ladakh. It can grow further because, in my opinion, on the tourism side, we only touched the initial things. We have not really started doing much more which needs to be done. So that should not deter us from increasing the numbers so long as we can make it economically viable and ecologically sustainable. That's the challenge. So just to sum up, I see the areas of animal resources, which means Pashmina and other animals. I see sea buckthorn, Sanjeevani, apricots, apples as the areas of development. I see power as the area of development. So these are the things on which, at least in my mind, I intend to focus on. But as I said, I am in the presence of experts, so I would love to hear from you anytime, and all of you are welcome to come in Ladakh, talk to me about it, and of course visit the beautiful place. Thank you.